Welcome to Compared to Who, the podcast to help you stop comparing and start living. I'm your host, Heather Creekmore. I hate to admit this, but I used to secretly obsess over my appearance. I thought it was part of my job as a woman to always look better, but never felt like I could be good enough. Maybe you can relate. God, in His grace, showed me a way out, and I want to give you all the tools you need to break free too. If you've ever spent too much time stressing over your looks, I get it. I hope you'll keep listening and find the same freedom I have. Here are 3 other things you should know about me. I'm a minivan driving mom of 4. I'm author of the book Compared to Who and the Burden of Better. I'm a blogger at comparedtowho.me, and you just may have seen my epic bake fail on Netflix. If you've ever struggled with comparison or body image issues, Compared to Who is the show for you. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and hey, tell a friend about it. Hey there, welcome to the Compared to Who show. I'm Heather Creekmore, and I'm really glad you're listening today. Today, I have a special guest, and we are continuing my series. You know, I never really came up with a good name for this series, but I'm talking to a bunch of non-diet dietitians, registered dietitians, because I feel like you, my people, you know a lot about food. And the last person in the world that you would ever think to call is a dietitian, because you know about food. But today, I want to give you another opportunity to hear from someone who actually has a degree in this stuff and knows what she's talking about, but takes an approach that I think you are going to find so super helpful. So my guest today is Amy Carlson. Let me tell you just a little bit about Amy. She is an RD. She's a registered dietitian. She has an awesome practice in Houston, Texas. Amy's been serving the eating disorder population for a couple decades now. She knows her stuff. She's the mom of 4 beautiful children. She's been married for 20 years, and she spends time speaking to women, encouraging women. And she has a cool app that she helped create called Peace with Food. And we're going to talk about that too. So Amy Carlson, welcome to the Compared to Who show.
Thank you. I'm so happy. I'm so happy to be here. Heather and I can match each other's vibe really well.
There's going to be a lot of energy today. Yeah. Okay. So Amy, before we get into the good stuff, and let me tell the listeners and the viewers what the good stuff's going to be, because here's where I told Amy we're going today. I want us to answer the question, how do I lose weight without doing all the diety things and thinking about food my entire life? So that's a question we are going to answer today. So don't go anywhere, as they used to say in the old television commercials, right? But Amy, first, give us a little background. Tell us more about who you are and why do you do this? What is your passion? Where does your passion for this come from?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. You know what is weird? When you just give that introduction, I realized I've been married for 27 years. Isn't that weird?
That's awesome. Congratulations.
I say 20, and then I'm like, I think we just celebrated our 27th. That's really weird. Well, I'm going to give you the abbreviated version of my story, but I grew up on a farm in Minnesota, the youngest of 5. I was a gymnast. I had a mom who dieted. I grew up in the church. My dad was church choir director. He was a school teacher. And my mom struggled with her weight on and off dieting her whole life. So I was a pretty average kid size, eating everything, and went through puberty. And I had a gymnastic coach that told me, hey, if you could lose 5 pounds, your timing on the uneven bars would be that much better, which we can all as women giggle and laugh and go, that's cuckoo. But she did. And she really affirmed to me what I already believed about myself, which was that I was too much and not enough. And that in my mind, that registered to me that I needed to lose 100 pounds. So I went in the locker room and I bawled my eyes out and I said, I'll never, ever be told that again. Mm-hmm. And subsequently, my eating disorder began. And that many years ago, I really didn't have a real context for eating disorders. Mm-hmm. And so my struggle began. I really down the road of anorexia, which eventually down the road led to bulimia, down the road led to binge eating, and then orthorexia. So I really had the whole gamut. There wasn't even language for all of that back then. But what I knew is that my mom had dieted and that that's how I knew how to manipulate and control my body. And I knew she had done that in the context of the church and even with some spiritual shade on it. And so I felt it was my job to do that and control and manipulate my body. Fast forward years of recovery, God is so gracious and loving and kind and led me through really kind of a windy road of recovery. I didn't plan on being a dietitian. I became a dietitian. I got my master's in nutrition. And then I really didn't plan on working with eating disorders. And I was in corporate wellness. And anyway, as the Lord would have it, I sat across from a young woman who had an eating disorder. And I went, yeah, okay, yeah. And then as a dietitian, I was presented, I worked in the med center in Houston, and I did high risk OB and diabetes. And what I could tell from early practice was that women's struggle was the same. It was the same. How they viewed their body, that it was dysfunctional or not enough. No matter what they had come to me for, their doctor had referred them to me, the struggle was the same. The struggle was, I'm not enough. I need to diet. I need to change. And I was just, wow. And so the Lord, through a lot of series of things, let me be in private practice, which was a miracle. And I got to work with girls and women of all ages. Initially, I worked with men and boys too. And then when I went and practiced in my home, I went just to girls and women, and really then got to do some speaking starting many, many years ago in my own church, and then all over the country in other churches and places and conferences. And it's just been a cool experience to watch the Lord move and do these things that only He can do.
That's awesome. I love that. Okay. You said, and I was trying to remember exactly how you said it, but you said your mom did her dieting in the context of the church. And I think you used like the cool lingo, like that threw some shade on it or something. Like my kids say something like that. Yeah. But let's go there for a second. Okay. Spell that out for me. Like, what is that? What does that look like? I think I know what that looks like, but what does that look like?
I think you do know what it looks like. So I actually grabbed a few books before we got on because I thought this is so important for women to hear. I say in a talk I give inside the app that, we've been doing this for decades and we're just doing it with upgraded illustrations. I recently helped for 2 summers, help my mom clean out the farm. My dad had passed away and just really cleaning out the stuff. And I came across some fascinating books. And for example, devotions for dieters.
Ooh.
Devotions for dieters. So you can imagine, right? Free to be thin.
Yep. I think we had that one at my house.
Yeah. Your head. The Thin Book by a formerly fat psychiatrist. I mean, it hurts me just to say these titles. I'm so sorry. So what I read and came across was that really, and I saw it happen, and it's still happening because I have precious women come into my office with books with Christian authors that are really, if you love God, you're thin. If you have self-control in context of the Holy Spirit, you're thin. Yeah. If you honor God with your life and you are living a surrendered life, you're thin. Right. Whoa, what? Wow. Right. Yeah. That's spiritual shade I'm talking about. So I watched my mom be in women's ladies groups where they were praying for each other to be really good at their diets. And so in my mind, I thought that is exactly what we had to do. We had to offer our body as a living sacrifice. Can you imagine how janked up that gets? Oh, Jesus, forgive us. Right? I'm going to offer my body. And if I can't control, and here's the reality, there's 150,000 different diets. So whatever decade it was, that was the one we were supposed to do and honor with our body. What?
Right. So spelling that out, I think you and I are the same age. Spelling that out, like in the early 90s, honoring God with your body meant only eating white bagels, right? Because they were fat-free, right? I mean, like, think about how silly that is.
I used to pride myself that I would go and have a bagel and I'd be like, oh, I'm really rocking it on the no fat, low fat. Yep. And now what's so fascinating is these precious girls with eating disorders are like not terrified of an avocado and they're terrified of a bagel. And I'm like, man, that's not was not happening for me in the middle of my eating disorder.
Bagel with turkey no cheese, and then fat-free frozen yogurt. And I grew up on the East Coast, so it was Turkey Hill mint chocolate chip frozen yogurt, fat-free, and I could eat a whole half gallon in maybe 48 hours if I was going slow. But it was fat-free, right?
Think about it. That's the thing. When I tell these girls that we ate fat-free like chips, or what is that? Is this an oxymoron? Their eyes go buggy. And this is the craziness of it. When we put it in context, we start to go, wow, this is so messed up. This is so messed up. I had in one of my rotations studying to be a dietitian, I got to be in downtown Houston, scary. Actually, it was scary part of Houston, at a community center, and the dietitian that I shadowed was like 80. She was scary. She was a believer. She was hardcore, man. She did not mess around with these women. She just loved them so well, but I was so scared. And I had my little lab coat and I'd follow her into every room. And I just was like, oh, and on one of the last, we'd sit and eat our lunch together, basically in silence. I was just like, eekies. So one of the last days she said, ask me anything. Well, she kind of said it more mean like that, but ask me anything you want to know. And I said, well, I'm pretty sure you're in like the first graduating class of dietitians since you're like 80. And I said, what's the holy grail of like weight loss? Like you've been around for so long, bless your heart. What's like the holy grail of eating? Like, what have you found to be? And she just looked at me like, oh, baby. She said, everything that comes around has been around. There is no new diet. There is no new diet. And she said, moderation and how God created our bodies. That's the holy grail. I mean, I'm like taking note, like, okay, whatever you're saying is true. And I've been in practice for 24 years. And I would say, yes, yeah.
Are you tired of comparing yourself to others? It's time to break free, my friend. Check out comparedtowho.me online and you'll find a ton of great resources, blog posts, videos, and so much more to help you stop comparing and start living. And make sure you sign up for my exclusive email list while you're there. I send my email friends things I don't send anyone else. You can also find out more about my brand new book, The Burden of Better: How a Comparison-Free Life Leads to Joy, Peace, and Rest. If you're tired of battling comparison, friend, I wrote this book just for you. Check it out right after this episode, of course.
If you are over the age of, I'm going to just generally say 45, you called keto South Beach at some point, right? But keto, I don't know, keto sounds healthier because it's kind of a medical term. But, and listen, and please, if you're watching or listening today, like Amy and I are not mocking these diets.
No.
We are just trying to be real about the truth that diets won't save us.
Yeah. Amen.
And be real about the truth, because I think, when I used to speak a lot, COVID's kind of shut down my speaking schedule, but when I used to speak a lot, my big thing was always, what is the definition of insanity?
Yes.
It's doing the same thing over and again, expecting different results.
Yes.
And friends, if you are like me, like my story, and, Amy, with your story, getting into some of the more severe ED, I know my listeners and viewers have been there too, but I had tried every diet, like every single one of them, and always got this, like, the next diet, you get this optimism, right? This, okay, Monday, I'm going to start this new thing. And maybe Saturday you go and you buy all the food for the new thing. I mean, we were vegan in my house. I think we made it through dinner. But Saturday, I had bought like all of these really weird things. And then I had this cookbook and I made the recipe for breakfast and for lunch and for dinner. And my husband sat across from me because he was going to do it too. Because, he's a supportive guy. So he's like, okay, yeah, we'll all do this. This makes sense. And he looked at me and he was like, this is horrible. I can't make the children eat this. Let's order a pizza. And that was the end of our story of being vegan. But I mean, I share that in that, like, we try all the things. And so the truth that we're getting at when we talk about like this diet or that diet and how they've gone around and around is they're really, it's like Ecclesiastes says, there's nothing new under the sun. And if we think that this is the solution to what we're struggling with is the next diet, the next fad diet, because guess what? This is 2021. And by 2022, 2023, every year there will be something new. And 5 years from now, if you're watching this and it's 2026 and YouTube's still around and all the things, you're going to be like, ooh, why are they talking about keto? That was like so 2021 and no one does that anymore, right? Like, and there will be something new. I mean, you've been doing this long enough. When I first started speaking, everyone was paleo.
Yeah.
Like that was the thing, right? And so paleo's kind of faded out a bit. And, you know, and as I was saying it, I remember thinking, well, I really hope this is true. I hope there will be something new after this. I hope we haven't arrived. And there always is.
Always is. Always is. And you know what? I want to echo what you said, Heather, I want to hug every listener. I always say I want to do hammock therapy where I just let them be in the hammock in my backyard, just have soft music and go, there is no way, there is no ridicule for the diets that you've done. If Heather and I had not participated and done all that, we wouldn't even be able to speak on this. This is the tenderness that goes, it is so exhausting. It's so exhausting. And when I had come out of my bulimia and so my brain was like, the orthorexia went then to, I'm going to eat perfectly. And again, perfectly was relative. It was relative, right? It was like, is that vegetarian? Is that the zone? That was back 30. And so, right. I mean, it was like, I'm going to eat because one, I'm a dietitian now. So, whoa, I'm studying to be a dietitian. I better kind of walk that out. And everyone kind of looked at, and I'm like, wow, I love fried chicken. Sorry, guys. I just really love a good piece of fried chicken. What we can do is that we can feel shame, and there's no shame in that. In fact, that's what we're actually trying to expose is to go, man, we're in this together. Like we're in this together and we have to encourage one another or we'll keep looping. And for some of you, just as a dietitian, I know your doctor has said, hey, I want you to be vegan, which is hard. That's a hard lifestyle. I mean, that's intense. What I have found, truly, some people enjoy a vegan lifestyle, but a lot of people, it's masking for eating disorder behavior and things. I certainly find that with teenagers, not as much as adults who've kind of walked out life. Certainly for teenagers who've watched a documentary prematurely, at school, they throw in a documentary and these poor kids have no autonomy. The only thing they know how to say, go to their parents and say, I guess I don't want to eat meat because I feel bad about the meat industry. And it's like, oh, too soon, people, too soon. Introduction of disorders. So there's so much compassion. And actually what we're doing is we're calling out freedom. We're calling, oh, there's something better. There's something better. Won't we want better? And so I echo these Heather's words of there's no mocking. And certainly the enemy always comes up with shame. And what we're saying is we're going to just call out that shame and go, no, we're in this together.
Right. Because if you think about it, and I talk to women about this all the time in my coaching, so many of us have collected these rules over decades and over the changes in the trends, right? So like, some of us who learned, like we talked about in the late 80s and 90s, that fat was bad, then went on to learn that carbs are bad. And so it's hard, even though maybe we're hearing, okay, it's okay to eat fat. It's still in the back of the head. Like, oh, wait a second. Maybe I shouldn't have too much fat either. So I'm not having fat and I'm not having carbs. And, oh, well, fruits are carbs. Okay. Get rid of fruit. The fruit's bad, and the rules, we don't like necessarily like get over the rules and push them aside and move on to the new rules. We just keep adding rules. And now because of IF, I can only eat between the hours of 12 and 6, and I can only eat, what is there left for me to eat? I guess I can eat an avocado, although I'm a little worried about the fat content, but like there's nothing like it, and it becomes this big monstrous burden. Just thinking about how to eat is overwhelming because we've collected all these rules. And this is where I want us to go today. There's so many places we could go, and we might go to some other places too, but I don't want to miss the main place. So we've collected all these rules. We desperately want to be free, right? We just want to have what I remember thinking, like, what is a normal relationship with food? Do I know anyone that has a normal relationship with food? Like, what would that even be like to not think about food all the time? Right? Like, that's what we desire. And then, dun, 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 we go to the doctor, we get on the scale, and the doctor says, you're going to need to lose that 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever amount. You're going to need to lose that weight, or you're staring diabetes in the face, or maybe you already have diabetes and you need to get it off so the diabetes, so type 2 can go in some sort of remission, right? Like, no, you got to get the weight off. And then we go home and it's like, what do you do? Amy, what do you do? What's the right answer, right? Intuitive eating, like, won't I just eat all the things if I do that? Right? Like, so talk to us. What do we do? And talk specifically. Let's start by addressing specifically, because I don't want to miss this woman. I know she's listening. Talk specifically to the woman who has come home from the doctors with that mission. I have to lose weight. Where do I start?
First, I'm going to put her in my hammock and then have 30 minutes of hammock therapy.
I love it.
What happens is we get so stressed. I know you've talked about this in your podcast, that autonomic nervous system, and we then go back to what is familiar to us, which is control. Control is never the answer. Mm-hmm. So let me just go a few different angles on this, because one of the things that we can do, I can get in the weeds in terms of just, which is never the weeds, of just how good God is. Then people go like, I want to hear that and tell me exactly what to do as a dietitian. So I want to be specific on that. And then I do want to say how good God is. One of the things I want you to know, again, 24 years of practice, that doctors have one note card when it comes to weight and disease. One note card. And they pull it out and they say, you need to exercise more and eat less, let's say fried food or lower fat or whatever it is. Beautiful, lovely girl, go to the doctor. She exercises and eats well and is intuitive eating. And her cholesterol numbers were a little bit up. Well, that's primarily hereditary. She's young, she has all this. And without asking any questions to the doctor, and she has a history of eating disorder. And without any information about her, he said, you need to exercise more. Okay, trigger. She already exercises and she's working really hard on moderation with that because of her history of eating disorder. And you need to eat less fried foods, of which she eats none. That's all he said. So why I'm saying this, another one came in with a history of eating disorder. He said this whole long story about her kind of, addressing her weight, etc. And she said, I guess you didn't see in my chart about my eating disorder, and he said, oh no, what do you binge on? That was his, of which not binge, she was a restrictor. So it was so wounding to her. So for everyone who's ever experienced something like that in the doctor, I just want to encourage you that you're not crazy. And there are wonderful doctors. There is absolutely doctors that are the exception, that are so tender and listening. I have another client who's just a tremendous doctor who has said, give me your dietitian's number. I want to hear what she has to say. I mean, so there's totally the exception. I want to say that because as a general rule, the women that I work with are scared of going to the doctor, have a lot of anxiety around it. The other thing I want to say specifically is that you always have the right to say, I want to be blind weighed. Mm-hmm. And also, I don't need to be weighed today. Mm-hmm. For the most part, unless they're calculating medication that requires them to know what your weight is, they generally, but what they want it for is insurance. And so you can give a general number. You can just say, I think I don't want to be weighed today. And I want to empower people with that information because, and I every doctor I go to, I don't wait so that I can train them on that, of saying, let me tell you what it's like to walk into your office and how many women are sick and won't come to the doctor because they're so afraid.
Yeah.
I say that just for you listeners to go, oh yeah, oh, that's so, even if I'm there for diabetes, I don't have to get on the scale.
Right.
I mean, we can look at each other and go, do you think I need to lose weight for diabetes? Sure. Okay, I already know that. That's not rocket science. I don't have to get on the scale. So information done. And what that takes that anxiety way down. Yeah. The other thing is the doctor is not the expert of your nutrition and your body and your weight history. You are. You know that. most doctors actually, unless they're really paying attention and are sitting with you and listening, they don't have that information. So it may be true that losing weight, again, this would take like 2 more podcasts to talk about, but it may be true that that losing weight may affect your blood pressure or your diabetes. And I could go into the science of why that's true. But I'm going to tell you something that's so liberating. Most all disease processes are mostly affected by moderation in eating. They're most positively affected in moderation in your eating. And for the most part, eating a wide variety of foods throughout the day, listening to your hunger and fullness, and eating generally whole foods, meaning less processed, more whole foods. I'm not talking whole foods, but whole foods, which can be expensive. Relatively whole foods in moderation, according to your hunger and fullness, is the best thing you can do for most disease processes. That's the truth. And it's the baseline. It's like you can go through a whole book on one disease and then it all comes out in like basically moderation. And you can go through a whole book on another disease and it comes out, but basically, relatively, less fast food. That's true across the board. Mm-hmm. And so the things that you need to know about nutrition, you probably already do know. You probably already know them. You actually know that eating a wide variety of foods and your fruits and vegetables and whole grains and lean protein, that doesn't change. That's like true 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 80 years ago. It's just kind of how our bodies are made. But what we tend to do is we go to one extreme and then we tax our body with this demanding weight loss. We're demanding something from our body. We go into the feast and famine cycle. We may lose some weight. And then what we usually do is lose muscle. And then we replace that when we kind of give up. And then that comes back. And it's all this cycle. That's harder on any disease than anything. Yeah. That's part of that cycle. For some of your listeners, they have never known not being on a diet.
Right.
For adult life, they have never known that. And so if a doctor says you need to, and you know what really actually makes me want to have hives and is this, so many doctors use the language of just go on keto, just go on, because it's something simple in their mind that they can give somebody. That's it. And the thing is, somebody will experience initial weight loss and then the doctor appears to be right. And then the person seems to have failed because they couldn't keep the weight loss diet, et cetera, going. Right. Where the doctor's like, well, you need to lose weight. It's a really weird, vicious cycle. And let me encourage you. The reality is your body, you are the expert of your own body. So for example, when I eat corn, I grew up on a farm, right? Who doesn't eat corn? When I eat corn chips or corn and stuff, I get a bellyache. And sometimes it's worth it to me. And sometimes it's not.
You do live in Texas.
I know,
Amy. I mean, it's pretty much,
I know.
If you can't eat chips and salsa, you can't eat out.
I can make that happen. There's some brands and it's better than how to eat chips and guac. How could I not eat chips and guac? You just love chips and guac. So, right. But I'm the expert of my own body. So there's not a rule that says I can't eat corn. I intuitively am listening to the fact that I tend to get a bellyache and I can tell if whatever that thing is, I can be like, oh yeah, if I eat apples on an empty stomach, I'm going to get a tummy ache. But if I eat apples with peanut butter with a meal, I'm not going to get a bellyache. So those aren't rules. Those are observations. And so we're observing about our body. What is it that my body's telling me here? And so, for example, somebody with type 2 diabetes is going to be an expert in their body. They're going to listen. They're going to check their blood sugar. They're going to see, wow, my blood sugar does great when I do this. And then, oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting observation without judgment, is that when I eat this, which I thought was okay, my blood sugar tends to spike. I've noticed a pattern. So we're looking for patterns, and we're doing that, not clinging to this external agenda and outcome, which is somebody else's version of what we should weigh.
Right.
Oh, wait, let's say that again. Glory to God. Glory to God. Can you imagine that sweet gymnastic coach telling me that my timing on the bars would be better if I lost 5 pounds? Oh, she said my hips.
Mhm.
So this woman's observation of my body and what I believe to be true triggered a cascade of events. Well, we get to go, wait, oh, that's interesting. So that's interesting. The doctor told me that. Now let me take that home and go, what's true about that?
Mhm.
What's true? Well, I do, let's say, have type 2 diabetes, and what medications are working for me. And I found that walking is enjoyable. I'm going to get into that, and that feels good. And I like to listen to podcasts. And right, okay, Lord, what do I have? Okay, that's a whole different feeling and observation, observing and making some of those corrections, than going, I have to lose weight. I have to lose weight,
Right.
or this disease is going to take it. No, it's
Right.
okay. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Hey, friend, I hope you are enjoying this interview with Amy Carlson. She is so much fun and has so much wisdom to share. In fact, we couldn't fit it all into one episode. So I'm going to leave you hanging there for today. And I hope you'll come back Tuesday and we will air the rest of my great conversation with Amy. We go to some interesting places, talking still about what do you do if you really want to or feel like you need to lose weight. Is it possible to have peace with food, to have a normal relationship with food? I think that's what most of us desire. And that's what we'll talk about in the second part of this episode, which will come out on Tuesday. For now, hey, check out the Peace with Food app this weekend if you want to. I think they have a free trial. You can learn more about it at hellopeacewithfood.com. It'll tell you all about it. I've been using it for a little while now. I really like it. There's lots of great resources on there. So check that out and come back Tuesday for the second part of this interview. I hope something in today's episode has helped you stop comparing and start living. Bye-bye.